Over the past decade, mukbang videos on YouTube have become mainstream, enough to get an entire segment in the YouTube Rewind in 2018. These videos consist of people eating mountains of food from noodles to McDonald's to even live animals. These videos, often extending over an hour, not only amass millions of viewers, but also show just how bad the fat acceptance movement has become. You see, over the last few years, it's now become normal to see plus-sized models almost everywhere, shop mannequins being plus-sized, regular-sized model posters being taken down for being fat-phobic. All the while, obesity rates across the West skyrocket, as our populations become poisoned from seed oils, processed food, and sedentary lifestyles. And whilst the fat acceptance movement continued to grow, so too did the mukbang trend, a trend of stuffing your face until you feel so physically ill that you can't continue eating and posting this to an online audience. And over time, the mainstream media and these kinds of people are trying to make it seem that excessive eating is not only acceptable, but also an attractive, healthy lifestyle. Hedonistic greed and the blocking of your arteries as a virtue. But then fast forward a few years, and after this movement took hold of the West, the results of this have become clear, and it's utterly tragic. And so in this video, we're going to be going over where these mukbang influencers ended up, starting with Nikocado Avocado. It would be impossible to make a video about mukbangs and not talk about Nikocado Avocado, aka Nicholas Perry. He is the perfect example of everything wrong with mukbang videos. You see, Nikocado Avocado started making mukbang videos back in 2016, and yet it was never really meant to be something he'd do regularly. In fact, he was a vegan, and most of his videos were just regular vlogs with the occasional violin videos thrown in there. He was a pioneer for healthy living, taking on a vegan lifestyle. But because of this, the content he was producing just felt boring. The views were slow, because he was a nobody talking to a camera about veganism while traveling Colombia. There's thousands of people doing the exact same thing as him. So how was he supposed to gain attraction by just being a regular guy making videos without any skill? He knew he had to change something, find a growing untapped niche that he could ride the wave of. On YouTube, almost all the top people have to find trends they can jump on better than anybody else. And it just so happened that over the Pacific, mukbang videos were spreading like wildfire in South Korea. But you might be asking, why? Why would anyone want to watch someone stuff their face with food? What's the point of these videos? Well, unsurprisingly, mukbangs actually originated from the growing loneliness epidemic in South Korean culture. With people being pushed away from local communities and into giant urban sprawls like Seoul, they increasingly turned to others online to find some sense of belonging in their empty lives. And as more and more people eat by themselves, empty, alone, and isolated, influencers found that just eating on camera while the viewer eats was enough to provide them some crumb of comfort in their lonely existence, instead of family gatherings, friends, and community. People more and more found themselves alone, eating Uber Eats in their pods, whilst trying to distract their gaping sense of dread every single night. And if escape meant some random influencer stuffing their face with disgusting slop, so be it. But it wasn't just South Koreans living this kind of lifestyle. More and more of the West found itself in the same depressing direction, and yet there was still no real good influencers doing mukbang videos. And that's when it became clear to Nikocado that there was a gap in the market. And so on October 15th, 2016, Nikocado would embark on a journey that ended up costing his entire life and reputation. In his first mukbang video, Nikocado just ate a slightly larger than normal vegan meal behind the camera. This was just him having fun, and it was only meant to be a one-off video. And yet to his surprise, the video took off quickly, becoming one of the most popular videos he's ever uploaded. His comments on the next few videos were filled with requests for more mukbangs. It was a slippery slope, as from there he'd eventually upload another mukbang video, then another, and another, until his entire channel became focused on eating as much as he possibly could. His transition to mukbang was not just a change in dietary preference, but a complete overhaul of his online persona. Knowing his audience loved drama, he'd lean into it. He would take toxicity to the next level. He'd constantly brag about how healthy it was, and yet anybody and their dog could see that was far from the truth. It was just another lie of the fat acceptance movement, as it was becoming clear the once young and healthy Nicholas Perry was transforming into an overtly obese narcissistic man, all within a single year. And yet he now had hundreds of thousands in his bank account and a giant following. What could go wrong? He could always just die later, right? I mean, this was at the very same time that the fat acceptance movement gripped the corporate American narrative, the any size is beautiful mentality, and if you disagree with the sentiment, you'd be a fat-shaming bigot. Probably because by this point, 1/3 of American adults were already clinically obese. So if companies wanted to market well, they would target fat people, claiming it was healthy, doing everything they could to make obese people feel an affinity to these companies. And Nikocado was the perfect pawn. Besides, this was the time when idiocracy became reality, and plus-size models propped up in all corners of the corporate media. And so of course, this was around the same time that Nikocado decided to abandon his veganism journey to continue running on the hedonistic treadmill to oblivion. Ostensibly, he explained that the change in diet was because veganism came with numerous health issues.
Is that vegan? Is that vegan too? Oh, now I have to vegan. Oh, it's annoying. If you're deficient in something, it doesn't matter how much you tell yourself, well, I'm gonna do it for the animals. I'm gonna do it to save the environment, save the trees. The poor trees are being chopped down for cows right now. I need to just, you can't be deficient for that long for the trees or for the cows. Does that make sense biologically? Does that make sense?
An ironic claim considering his new diet consisted of donuts, nuggets, and pizza, but in reality, the reason for this diet change was most likely based on the fact that he could make bank and become a beacon of corporate media advertising if he too promoted this fat acceptance movement. And so he went full steam ahead, stuffing his gob with anything and everything he could fit into his mouth, quickly going from 115 pounds to 400 pounds. But he would tell his viewers this was okay and that he'd go and lose some weight, but that wouldn't be as easy as it sounded. His appetite was already humongous, and he was so ingrained into the culture of mukbangs that it would be almost impossible to break free, and so things would only get worse from here. Aside from watching him get fatter and fatter, his viewers were first-hand witnesses to the decline of his mental and physical health. Almost all of his videos were filled with some sort of emotional breakdown, crying spells, and toxicity.
Put it down. Oh, it's my finger. You got a branch on it.
Quote, I'm just like, well, f it. Everyone already hates me. I'm already dramatic. Let me just grab the camera and film it. They like when I'm upset. They like when I'm crying. They like when I'm hyper. And whilst this is probably true, you still might be thinking, why did he continue? He knew by this point that this fat acceptance movement was not only destroying his body, mind, and soul, but millions of others across the world. And yet in a cruel twist of fate, the more pain, the more abandoning of his morals, and decline in his entire being, the more views and money he made. So in a world where money, views, and followers deem your supposed value, it seemed worth sacrificing his morality for more greed. And why would he think any different when the entire culture surrounding him was cheering him on? And so of course, it's easy to understand why he wanted to broadcast his less than healthy relationship with his husband all in. The pair would kiss each other on camera and seem to love each other, but fight and scream at each other a few minutes later. And yes, this was probably a desperate move for more engagement with the video. Although the pair did seem to have an on and off relationship outside of the cameras. There seems to be a constant stream of videos on his channel indicating the end of their relationship. There's even a brief moment when Nikocado introduces his new boyfriend, but he seems to always end up back with All-In. The pair even got divorced according to Perry, but in his most recent video, All-In is suddenly back, and the pair are exchanging kisses once again. Which makes this whole thing just seem as fake as his entire artificial existence. But it is interesting the reasons why their supposed relationship seemed to be falling apart. As is true for many people across the world, his fading relationship was due to his unhealthy lifestyle, as this constant overeating, obesity, and decline in testosterone caused him erectile dysfunction and a loss of libido. Aside from the fat he'd put on, this did come to be one of the first signs of Nikocado's massive health issues. He even admitted to having a vitamin B12 deficiency, tooth decay, and low blood sugar. He'd even need a breathalyzer in some of his videos to make it through these meals. It's absolutely repulsive, and it's something that more and more fat pride activists are now facing today. As you've probably seen, there's a constant flood of these news stories coming out about these tragic cases where these fat acceptance activists are now starting to visit the grave early, because they were so deep into the delusion that it was too late to turn back and admit their wrongful thinking and change their toxic habits. And when Nikocado realizing his entire income would die if his body didn't continue to die as well, there was no turning back for him. And so to this day, he still continues. And it just gets more and more pathetic. In a recent video, he even had a heart attack while filming one of his mukbangs.
Ow! Oh my god.
Or so he claimed. It's hard to know what's actually true with this guy. But either way, it's just so incredibly dystopian. He either pushed his body to a limit that could have actually taken his entire life, or he's willing to pretend to have a heart attack to get views, which is almost equally as disturbing. But to an extent, it worked. And within a few years, he's now gained millions of subs and dollars. Videos talking about him have racked up millions of views. And he's become a notable figure in online culture, albeit for almost all the wrong reasons. Morphing into a parody of the 21st century, an icon for the alienated Western lifestyle of living permanently alone, watching people slowly die on camera to escape their ever-present loneliness for 10 minutes, all while we all pretend this insanity is somehow normal. And the sad part is, his fanbase would never actually support his weight loss. They wanted him to gain more weight, and slowly drop to the grave, while at the same time becoming one of YouTube's most hated creators, getting to the point that thousands have actually called for him to be deplatformed. But perhaps one of the biggest issues here was the underlying mental health issues that actually created this mukbang trend in the first place. Even for Nikocado, the physical manifestation of all these problems can really just be sourced down to his mental health issues and his refusal to handle it. Despite making it clear he dealt with depression and bipolar episodes, notes, he only saw these as more of an opportunity to showcase his sad life to his viewers, as the more sad his life was, the more money he makes. And at the end, he did make a lot of money, and he's famous. So much so that he has a $2.3 million penthouse. Constantly people are talking about him. But was it all worth it? Getting rich while sacrificing your body, soul, and mind for the support of a twisted fanbase? The answer is no, as Nikocado seems to always end these videos crying and alone, just like most of his followers do after they finish their lonely Uber Eats meal with him. But Nikado's views are clearly more important than his health, and this is a pattern we see with other mukbang creators. One mukbanger in particular would pay the ultimate price for taking on this lifestyle. Waffler69 is unfortunately a prime example of what happens when someone centers their entire life around mukbangs. You see, before he became famous on TikTok, Taylor Lejeune had a YouTube channel where he posted various funny videos, though most were centered around him eating a massive amount of food or trying different diets. All he really cared about was making his small, loyal fanbase laugh, something he continued to do even when people would batter him with hate because of his size. Then in 2019, as the hype of TikTok came, he wanted to jump on the bandwagon and finally achieve viral fandom, and he would succeed in doing so, quickly becoming one of the most popular food creators on the app. After the success of his first viral video, he would then begin to dedicate his entire TikTok account to reviewing different foods, keeping his content cheerful and lighthearted, with his reviews never disappointing his fans. And with this, his numbers skyrocketed. He was killing it, and as he did better and better, he would see more money and thus make more of these videos. His particular niche was anything weird, unusually large, and sometimes even expired food, like the time he ate Batman cereal from 1989. If he was eating regular food, there was usually some sort of twist that was sure to gross out his fans. But his fanbase did admire his willingness to try new things and his passion for food. But as the dishes became more and more bizarre, people started to get worried about his health. How far was he going to go for views? Below the videos in which he reviewed questionable and potentially dangerous foods were many comments from fans warning him against eating expired or suspicious looking foods. However, Taylor, seeing his numbers skyrocket and the money coming in, would never want to listen to these warnings. His ego would push him forward, as he continued to entertain his fans by endangering himself with the food in the videos. Unfortunately, the thing that brought him so much joy and fame would ultimately lead to his demise. On January 8th, 2023, Taylor uploaded a video of himself eating a giant Fruit Loop that a friend sent him. He followed it up with a video where he dunked the same Fruit Loop into a bowl of cereal before biting into it, and proclaiming that it was much better that way. The video was fun, lighthearted, and thoroughly entertaining like every other video he had posted. There was nothing out of the ordinary, no cause for panic or reason to worry about Taylor's health. However, this would be the last video he would ever post.
I'm related to Waffler69, or my brother Taylor. He has passed away around 10 p.m. on January 11th, 2023, from a presumed heart attack.
Because it turned out Taylor's family suffers from a genetic heart condition that had taken the lives of both his father and grandfather, and after years of putting his body through all of this food, it finally gave up on him. And on January 11th, 2023, Taylor was rushed to the hospital after his mother saw that he couldn't breathe. And less than 2 hours later, Waffle69 passed away at the tragic age of 33. As you saw in the video, his brother Clayton announced Taylor's death to the world and asked him to keep his legacy alive by rewatching his videos and continuing to find laughter where Taylor had tried to inspire it. While trying to have fans enjoy his videos, you can't help but overlook the fact that we have a slow documentary revealing the 33-year-old's inevitable death. It's haunting to watch, but it was one of the first signs that this mukbang lifestyle wasn't just bad for health, but it was actually a deadly trend, pushing people's bodies to breaking points. And while this next mukbang style might still be around, the damage he's caused is only just revealing itself. You see, Trisha Paytas is one of the most controversial YouTubers around. Very soon after she launched her channel in 2007, a year after YouTube was even made, she discovered that the fastest way to garner views was by trolling the internet, and has been doing so ever since. And after almost 2 decades of being on YouTube, the biggest cause of her controversies wasn't the trolls, the many feuds she got into, or even the time she took back the claim that she was a transgender man, although that was the one that caused the loudest uproar. No, her biggest controversy has been her relationship with her weight, specifically the mixed signals she sent her audience. You see, in many of her videos, Trisha was either expressing her love for her curves and treating her weight as something positive that needs to be celebrated, or calling herself fat, commenting on how much she needs to lose weight. And it was these comments that would become problematic when she hopped on the same mukbang trend in 2015. Now the video started harmlessly, with her feeling inspired by YouTubers like Nikocado Avocado and the whole movement that was happening in South Korea at the time. And so she would begin by eating just normal portions of food while discussing her life or sharing her opinions. She'd even occasionally do themed mukbangs featuring different cultures. Unfortunately, the videos soon began to spiral out of control as her eating disorder started to come into play. She would start filming intense diet videos where she would deprive herself of food for days, such as the time she did a 5-day water fast and would immediately follow them up with back-to-back mukbang videos, during which she'd eat fast food until she was sick. Because this is what the audience wanted. The most extreme videos do the best on YouTube. And after seeing what worked for other mukbang YouTubers, it was only a matter of time before she started destroying herself. I mean, not only was she putting her body through these extremes in a very short period of time that was incredibly harmful to her body, but it was also incredibly damaging to her audience. She inspired many to follow the same as her. She had created a community of like-minded people doing this stuff. Now, she later claimed that she doesn't do what she does for money, but given the fact that she went this extreme for more views, probably suggests that money was a consideration. Especially given the nature and cost of some of her content, it's almost impossible to believe. Because today, she has over 200 videos dedicated to her binge eating sessions. She didn't even bother to slow down the mukbang content, as evidenced by a few of the videos she had posted recently. But fans are starting to show concern. As more and more mukbang YouTubers fall dead, the consequences eventually take their toll, and it's becoming clear to many that she is risking not only her own life, but her unborn child's life if she continues down her current path. But she continues to ignore this, stating that she is happy with her choices. But as people start witnessing more and more of this, her fans are turning their back on her, growing tired of her antics, slowly slipping into irrelevancy compared to where she was just a few years ago. And while she still is doing fairly well, and is by no means struggling, she's definitely not doing as well as she once was. I mean, she didn't help her case during the interview she filmed with ABC News in June of 2023, where she confessed that the videos were a lot of pressure and that she felt like she had to one-up herself with every new video she posted, otherwise she wouldn't get the views she expected. She spoke of her plans to dial back her eating challenge and keep a close eye on her health, but then she would say she wasn't gonna stop, just like all of these mukbang YouTubers. I don't think I ever want to turn it off. I actually love it so much. If there's 10,000 people watching or 1 million people watching, I think it's exciting, showing how far this fat acceptance movement is going in the West, where mukbang videos of people slowly destroying themselves are becoming just part and parcel of the internet. But luckily for Trisha, she doesn't just need to do food-centric content. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for mukbang creators who have made food the center of their channels and lives. Food-related content is all they know, and they've become so reliant on it that quitting doesn't feel like a viable option anymore, no matter how unhappy they are or how bad their health is. Many are faced with a difficult choice, their health or their income. And unfortunately, most would rather take the easy way out. Case in point, Hungry Fat Chick. Hungry Fat Chick, otherwise known as Candy Godiva, is a popular mukbang YouTuber who launched her channel in 2010. Her food issues began at a very early age, as she went from being starved by her neglectful parents to, in her words, being force-fed by her grandparents, who would reward her good behavior with treats or food. These issues and the grief she began dealing with after her grandmother and mother died are likely what led to her becoming an adult fetish model in 2002. When she launched her YouTube channel in 2010, her sweet personality and great sense of humor almost instantly gained her a huge following, but she wasn't regularly uploading mukbang videos until 2017. But as the trend of mukbangs and fat acceptance became normal, she had to jump on the bandwagon. And in doing so, she started to make a good amount of money and her views were skyrocketing. It seemed like everyone loved her in her audience, and there was nothing to complain about on the surface, but people began to notice that she was never in a good mental space, facing an ongoing battle with depression, grief, and overwhelming feelings of guilt. While she thoroughly enjoys her food and for the most part seems happy, many of her viewers could see that she wanted more. However, she refused to do anything about it and was unwilling to listen to people preach about developing a healthier lifestyle. This lifestyle was so ingrained into her, mixed in with her childhood trauma, that it seemed like an impossible wall to break down. But then, after years of seemingly inconsequential poor eating, Candy was faced with reality in February of 2023, after she posted a short video of herself in the hospital explaining that she couldn't upload a mukbang that day, though she was quick to assure her viewers she'd be home in a few days. Her audience began to be terrified for her, as there had been several other mukbang creators who died shortly after being hospitalized, but soon she did thankfully come back home. In the next video she posted, Candy spoke about how she was ready to make a change in her life and would be going on a 30-day carnivore diet. Fans that had been worried about her health for years were ecstatic. While the challenge had its ups and downs, Candy looked far happier than she had in a long time and was constantly sharing about how much energy she had since she started the diet. Some even remarked that her water cough had disappeared. She started strong, clearing her cupboard of junk food to avoid temptation and only buying groceries that were within the limits of her new diet. Everything seemed to be on the up. It seemed like the shackles of her trauma had disappeared, and this toxic fat acceptance mukbang ideology had dissolved. Suddenly she had so much more energy energy, and celebrated every time she weighed herself because she successfully lost a few extra pounds. Now and then the cravings would get too much and Candy would slip up, as many of us do, but she kept going, and for the most part she looked like she was starting to enjoy her life and could see that there was more to it than just food. She felt good about the change she'd made and started talking about how she no longer wanted food to be the center of her life. A huge move considering her channel was based around mukbangs. Her story was inspiring and highlighted just how toxic this subculture had become, and as she escaped this horrible lifestyle, she ended up losing 18.7 kilograms, and it seemed like she was well on her way to stopping mukbangs once and for all, focusing all of her attention on her own health. But because her audience only knows her for these mukbang videos, they were begging for this content to come back. All the money was there on the table for her, all the views and fame, but she decided to continue being a healthier person, never letting these comments hold her progress down, focusing instead on the support she received from the viewers on her second channel. Still, it soon became apparent that Candy was missing the regular stream of income, and the lack of views in her weight loss video was starting to get to her. I mean, when your primary source of income disappears unexpectedly, it can be incredibly disheartening, and such a scary situation to be in. But Candy was determined to find a new side hustle rather than take the easy way out and poison her body. Hoping to give her audience what they wanted without compromising her lifestyle choices, she began creating content that proved detrimental to her progress, where she started reacting to her old mukbang videos. She was missing the food she used to eat, but she stuck with her new eating habits all through October, maintaining her weight and continuing to garner support from her community. But everything came to a head when someone stole her package. Frustrated with her current financial pressure and the sudden lack of income, along with her slow YouTube growth, and Candy eventually returned to things that had brought her comfort for years: food. Her audience immediately began encouraging her to continue her weight loss journey, sharing their own weight loss journeys and telling her that a small amount of weight gain was normal. But Candy wouldn't hear it. It came down to a choice between prioritizing health, beauty, and long-term success, or running a short burst of higher income and poisoning her body with this disgusting mukbang culture, building an audience that promotes this. And unfortunately, she chose the latter. While people are concerned for her and understand she slipped up, not many of her supportive viewers will stick around to watch her throw her life away again. She was on the right path, she saw the light and chucked it away. And Candy was always honest and real with her audience. That's why people loved her. But when there's an audience to tap into and money to make, it seems all too tempting, even though in the end, this path leads to disastrous consequences. And knowing the health implications of this, and yet the money you can make with mukbang videos, fakers are starting to try and come into this world, promoting the mukbang lifestyle, all whilst doing the complete opposite in their real life. In fact, faking mukbangs has become a regular thing now. When you look at people like Nikocado Avocado and Hungry Fat Chick, it's very easy to see the physical and mental effects of the content they're putting out there. But then there's the other side of the mukbang community, and this is probably the most dangerous content of all. Fairly slim people eating this ridiculous amount of food, promoting to the world fat acceptance, hedonistic greed, stuffing your face, all while completely deceiving their audience and keeping up a false beauty standard that isn't achievable when you gorge on slop like this. A primary example of this is Zach Coy. Before becoming famous for his food content, Zach was a model and fashion blogger who commented on the different trends he encountered while living in LA. When he eventually created his YouTube channel in 2018, he started gaining popularity through his beautifully presented and neat videos, and he would maintain this popularity on platforms like Instagram and TikTok, where his aesthetically pleasing cooking videos garnered even more attention. It just seemed perfect. Just as TikTok was blowing up, so too was the mukbang trend. These two together, and Zach with his looks found instant success. Maybe it was too good to be true, because as of recently, his fans have been suspicious of the legitimacy of his content. You see, in the 6 years that he's been active on social media, Zach has filmed and released over 1,100 videos on his channel, yet he's always maintained his figure somehow. Now, while more hardcore fans have argued that this is because he has a rigorous exercise routine or a fast metabolism, people who understand calories don't believe this at all, as many suspect that Zach is swallowing the food he shows on camera and then likely purges it once the cameras are off, practice that has become very common for a large portion of mukbang creators, which inadvertently promotes even more eating disorders. And the suspicions might have been confirmed when a former employee of Zach anonymously posted on Reddit to expose how he was running things behind the scenes. They wrote, "Zach vomits every meal in order to stay thin." Zach is fooling his naive and ignorantly young audience of millions across the globe. He is making millions of dollars capitalizing of young people's lack of awareness to realize that Zach is evil, gluttonous, fake, and a liar. The feds need to investigate Zach for his crimes against humanity and illegally making money on the back end. Zach is not even his real name. He's obviously doing some shady crap to hide his evil crimes. The FBI, CIA, and FDA, along with Homeland Security and DOJ, need to work together to stop Zach from causing more destruction and eating disorders around the world, end quotes. And Zach's case wasn't helped when another YouTuber did her part to expose many mukbang creators by demonstrating just how easy it is for them to fake their videos. In the video, she explains that fake overeating mukbangs are dangerous because of how they affect the unhealthy eating habits of their viewers, especially the ones who are watching those kinds of videos late at night and are encouraged to have a snack or two, promoting fat acceptance worldwide, all while they do the opposite, saying that fat people are beautiful, all whilst doing everything they can to avoid being fat in the first place. And if what this Redditor says is true, Zach is not only causing himself incredible harm that could come back to bite him in the future, but he's also shamelessly deceiving his entire audience into believing that overeating is acceptable. With these suspicions about him floating around, it seems like his fanbase is slowly dying out, and the only content he's posted in the last few years has been reruns of his old mukbangs. At this point, he doesn't even seem to be putting any effort into his videos, milking his channel dry to the bone to make as much money as possible. But Zach's not the only mukbanger who lies to his audience, but at least he targets people who should be mature enough to recognize the way he's eating isn't sustainable, nor should it be copied. Unfortunately, some other mukbang creators have no issue targeting a younger, much more naive audience. Donna is a South Korean mukbang channel that features two women who try various colorful foods. These foods are often unhealthy, such as giant pieces of candy, or just very odd combinations. The channel has gained a lot of popularity in recent years and is currently sitting on 32.3 million subscribers, an insane feat for a channel with only 170 videos, though it's important to note that they deleted almost all of their videos back in 2020. Why? But while the channel looks mostly harmless with its fun colors, cute animations, cheerful hosts, and upbeat music, the issue comes in when you realize they're trying to encourage children to watch mukbangs, promoting obesity, greed, and hedonism to a global audience of children. Of course, most kids aren't ever capable of discerning what is real and what is fake, and given that many adults are naive enough to believe that mukbangers finish everything on their plates, these food-centric internet personalities won't have any trouble tricking children. And as more and more kids become iPad kids, they will go on YouTube Kids and watch this charming host eat a whole bunch of unhealthy, colorful food without experiencing any seemingly consequences. It just looks like pure fun. Nothing bad here to see. It's not like these people are dying. This is all hidden behind the camera. And with the fat acceptance movement spreading across the West, this stuff's becoming more and more acceptable to children. And so not only will these kids watch these people and want to eat like the people in these videos, but when their bodies start reacting appropriately, it will eventually lead to obesity, heart issues, mental health problems, anxiety, and a shortened lifespan, ruining these children's lives to fit in with the progressive agenda. Worse so, channels like Donna have become a gateway to other mukbang content. Donna's videos aren't very long and they post infrequently. Once a child runs out of content, they'll start looking for similar videos, and if their parents aren't keeping an eye on what they're watching, that child can very easily stumble onto a very dangerous and inappropriate side of the internet. Children who watch mukbangs will often develop bad habits. They'll see grown adults eating messily, grabbing for food without restraint, and start replicating it when eating their own meals. So whatever you do, mukbang videos need to stop. It is cancerous to the world and poisoning children.